Hi, what's happening, everybody? PowerStroke Jude right here. Starting off today by pulling off the turbo. Well, first, everybody like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, please. I appreciate all viewership and all subscriptions. Thank you for that. Today on this 0.56 liter, I'm going to pull off the turbo. That's what I'm going to start doing, and this is all part of a bigger job to get to eventually pulling off the cylinder heads and replacing them because of a fuel in the coolant concern, where the cylinder head is cracked, number 5 right here on the passenger side. To get this turbo off, there's this clamp that you can see the head of right here, has an 11-meter bolt. Same thing on the other side. This clamp right here that I'm pointing at has an 11-meter bolt. I said bolt, I'm sorry, I meant nut. You take both those nuts off, spray some penetrate on the clamps, and the clamps will come right off. Maybe tap them with a small hammer or something like that. Here's the turbo. This line right here is the oil feed line to the turbo. There's two 10-millimeter bolts on top of that. You take those out and you can wiggle this off to the side. You can pull this out, or it doesn't matter if you pull out the feed tube or not. You can if you want to. Usually I leave it in. Also, to take off the turbo right here, it's hard to see, but there's a 10-millimeter bolt that connects the turbo to the pedestal. Same thing on the other side. Right here, there's a 10-millimeter bolt that connects the turbo to the pedestal. And behind it, there's a 10-millimeter bolt that goes straight down. On the one that goes straight down, best access you're going to have to it is a 6-inch extension with the shallow 10-millimeter socket and a 3/8 ratchet, and you'll be able to crack that loose. And once you get that loose, you can spin it out. Once you get all of that off, you can put a pry bar, right here underneath the front of the turbo. Just be careful with the harnesses. And you can pop it off, and then you can finagle the turbo out. There's also one thing I forgot to mention. There is one electrical connector to the VGT solenoid. VGT stands for Variable Geometry Turbocharger, and that's what uses the oil that gets fed to the turbo. And there's a valve in there that, the more power or boost it needs, the valve opens and closes. For the more boost you need, the less boost you need, and that's how that works with the throttle. After that, like I said, alternator and all this other stuff. But I'm going to start by doing the turbo, and I'm going to show that. And then I'll probably pause the video or stop the video, and then I'll work in the alternator and all the other stuff that I'm going to do. And maybe make a few videos, maybe make one. I haven't decided yet. I'm also going to take off the coolant hose. Like I told you before, it's all rubbery and spongy from the fuel that's in the cooling system. I think I mentioned I'm going to take out the evaporator box. Evac the AC system and take that out. You saw the other components I took out last time. I will be taking out the vacuum pump. I already took out the vacuum canister. You can see that the battery compartments are bare. When I get to the heads, that's where I'm going to lay my rockers, my push rods, the bridges for the rockers. Everything's going to get laid right there in order, so I know where it goes back, on what cylinder it goes on. I'm going to replace this with a factory cap, because I don't like the aftermarket caps. I always that filter's wrong. So this vehicle will be getting an oil change, obviously, but I'll be putting a factory cap and a factory filter in it. Motorcraft, that's the way to go on these things. I don't care. People will talk about AMSOIL and all that stuff, but I've been doing this, working on these 6.0s since they came out in late 2002, and I'll tell you right now, OEM is the way to go. If you decide to do something aftermarket like bulletproofing it, I'm not going to speak against that, because that is good stuff. It's expensive, but if you take care of your truck and do all the maintenance the way you're supposed to, these things are pretty much diamonds. The one thing I would say is, head gaskets blow. You can't do nothing about that. I would recommend ARP head studs when you replace the heads, and this truck will be getting ARP head studs, and I'll show you how that goes when I put them on. It's a lot easier. It's a much easier process putting them on. I'll probably get a belt. There's a few parts that I forgot to put on the customer's list, but this customer's real cool. He's real chill, and he'll totally understand. He knows how much money I'm saving him. So a few more parts here and there, he's not going to care about. Also, it's going to get a it's going to get a coolant filtration system. I'm going to use the Sinister setup and put a cooling system filtration system on here. Those usually help out a lot, especially on work trucks who are like idling at work sites a lot where there's a lot of dust and stuff going on. It's great to have those. The fan's going to remain the same, the shroud, all that's going to remain the same. He's not going to replace the radiator. I mentioned it to him that these things could fail later, because of the concern that he's having, but that I never see him as a real quick failure. He said he's thinking about it. I have a feeling he's going to lean towards it and get it anyways, but if he doesn't, it's no big deal. It's an easy repair later, and it's not an expensive repair. I'll take care of this guy. Sounds like he's going to be a good customer. He's already talking to me about working on his Chevy 2500 HD. So that's pretty cool. Other small tips you might need. Here's your EGR valve. I'll pull that out and I'll get twisted and I'll use a heel hook. I think people call it a ladyfinger to pry the valve out. When I get the intake manifold out, I'm gonna get a high pressure water sprayer, or I don't have a high pressure hose, but I have something that's equivalent, and I'm gonna get all the carbon and stuff that's built up out of it. I will clean the EGR valve as well, but that's the start of this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and let part 4 go with an introduction, and you'll see me working on this shortly. Alright guys, until next time, or I'll see you in a bit. PowerStroke Jude, out.